Welcome everybody to the 24th ukulele warm up on a Tuesday, and I'm Dave from Dukes, and we've got lots of stuff for you this morning for the next half an hour. Tell you what, let's just first of all start by just warming up the fingers a little bit. Don't take it too far if I start saying things like bend the fingers back 90 degrees. But first of all, perhaps shake, rummage your fingers around a little bit, get blood moving. You could even shake them, that probably helps. Anything just to limber them up a little bit. Imagine what you'd do if you were just about to go for a run. You wouldn't just burst out the front door, you'd do a bit of a warm up first. You can bend your fingers back a little bit until it hurts, or before it starts hurting perhaps. Some musicians do this every day, and they bend each individual finger back 90 degrees, and they say it feels like it's a little bit freer and easier when it comes to playing whatever instrument that may be. I mean, piano players do this a lot, as well as guitarists and so on. So, but obviously don't do anything if anything starts to ache or hurt a bit. You know your own bodies. Right, good. Okay, and what we're going to do to start with is just something we did a few weeks ago, and it's the C major scale. So just going to put that on the screen. You should see that. Just shout like mad if you can't see that on the screen. And the C major scale, it's the most common musical scale on all instruments, and this is how we play it on the ukulele. Hopefully you've done this before, so I'm not going to spend too long describing it, but that's the ukulele there. The black dot is the first note, and that's the open C string, so that note will be C. And then the fingers refer to the frets, but also to the finger numbers. So your index finger is 1, your second finger is next finger is 2, and the ring finger is 3. So so to get the open string, you can pluck either using your thumb of the right hand, or a finger, or a plectrum. I don't mind which you use for that. But if we just do the first two notes, that's the open black dot on the C string, and then the second fret. Let's just do that, just to get you all into the right, so all sounding the same. So after 3, 4, open 2. Then on the next string it's open 1, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Open 1, 3. Hopefully yours should sound the same as mine. And then on the A string, which is the top of that diagram, open 2, 3. 3, 4. Open 2, 3. So keep one finger over the first fret, second finger over the second fret, third finger over the third fret, and that way it will be easiest to play. Okay, we're going to now just play that scale very slowly. Starting on the black dot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the good old familiar sounding C major scale. Let's do that again. 3, 4, and dun, 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 dun. I'm going to put it to a metronome now, and if you do practice this at home, it's always best to play to a metronome, just to build up your own internal clock accuracy, and eventually you can play without one. In time, but for now let's just put it to a metronome a little bit faster now. So after 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and again 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course this is being recorded on YouTube, so you can always come back and watch this and play over it many times, and even rewind it and do it, repeat it. So we're going to do the opposite now. We're going to descend. So we're going to start on the 3, the black dot 3, which is the note C again. And you'll appreciate that by seeing that it's the the note you hold down when you play a C chord. Not a coincidence, that note is actually a C as well. So that's a C. So we're going to just do the reverse. So that'll be 3-2 open, then 3-1 open on the next string, then 2 open. So let's just do that. After 4, coming down, starting on the black dot 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Okay, I hope that's going well for you so far. The next thing that we're going to do is go back to the first one, the low black dot note open C, go all the way up to the top one, and then come all the way back down to the first one again. And when you get to that top one, don't repeat it, just play it the once and then come straight back to the second fret and down. If you want to sing along at the same time, that's a good way of helping internalise this. Always a good thing to do, to sing the notes that you're playing on a ukulele if you can. Don't worry if it's not in tune, it's just helping your brain connect what you hear and what you see on the paper and your instrument and your fingers. It's all part of the linking, and it creates those neural pathways which help you remember these things as well. And recognise them when you hear it from somewhere else. So let's do that. Let's start on the open C, the black dot, and all the way up to the top 3, and then back down again, as I say, without repeating that top note. I'm going to do a little bit slower. Here we go. After 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I hope that was good. Try and keep the notes as long as possible, so not... but keep them ringing as long as possible, which means leaving your finger on the note, leaving it held down as long as you can till the next one's played, and not taking it off until the next one's ready to play as well. So aim for what's called legato, smooth sound. Let's do that again, so all the way up and down. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And one more time. We're just going to do it a little bit quicker, just see how you get on. You might surprise yourself. Because once your muscles have learnt that sort of pattern, that's when you can start pushing up the tempo. And you'll be surprised that once the muscles have got a pattern to go to, that muscle memory thing, they can speed up relatively easily. It's not a case of learning anything new, it's just pushing it a little bit faster. Okay, this is quite a bit faster, but have a go. Here we go. After 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that was at 100 beats per minute. Okay, good. That's our little warm up there on the C major scale, and we will come back to that every now and again. Just out of interest, you might be interested to know this. It's always worth learning the notes of an instrument. We tend to play the ukulele without knowing what notes we're playing. We know the names of the chords, but not the notes of the actual. And that black dot is a C, as I said. The 2 is a D. The next open string is an E. We know it's the open E string. The 1, fret 1, that's an F. The next 3 on the E string is a G. And then the top open string is an A. Then the 2 is a B. And then finally C. So you've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And you might well know that all the white notes on a piano are the C major scale, going from C to C. Now, you may also know that G major, a different key, G major or a different scale, has an F sharp in it. It's got one sharp. And when you see a piece of music with a one sharp shown on the stave, top left, it'll be an F sharp, and that means it's G major, not C major. So the difference between the scale of C major and G major is only one note. It's the F, and it's an F in C major, but it's an F sharp in G, and that just makes it sound different. Now what you can do is you can change the F on this scale that's in front of you. That's the 1, the fret 1. That's an F. If you move that to a 2, you have created the G major scale, because that is the only difference. Now the main thing is you're not going from G to G, but it is still the right notes. It will sound a little bit strange. But nevertheless, that is all the notes in the key of G major, just by changing that one note, the F to the F sharp. Anyway, that's a little by the way. It's not part of the warm-up, that's just a little bit of information there. Okay, let's move on. And we've got a little picking pattern. We've done some picking patterns in the past, but I've got a new one you might be interested in learning to play. It creates very pretty little patterns, and it only requires one thumb and one finger. So you may have played it before, but we just need your thumb and first finger on the right hand this time to play this particular pattern. So just reminding you, what we've done in the past is we've had all four, well, thumb and three fingers playing the individual strings. Thumb had played the G string, first finger the C string, third finger the E string, and so on. And that's the classical guitar approach to playing. It's the PIMA, which is Italian for the names of the fingers. PIMA approach to playing, and that's absolutely fine, and you can carry on with that. This is a little bit more folky. It's played by a lot of African musicians, African guitarists, for example, and English ones. But it's only using two fingers, but it still creates very melodic sort of patterns. And that's the sequence. It's first of all, so you're covering all four strings. I haven't shown a chord there, so don't worry about that. Just have the open strings. So the thumb plucks the G string. The first finger plucks the A string. Then the thumb moves to the C string. And then the first finger, the E string. In order. So that's the order. Yeah, straight away it sounds quite nice, doesn't it? And all I'm doing is alternating the thumb and the first finger. So that makes it mechanically quite an easier pattern to learn, because you're not tripping over and deciding which finger to play next. You're just going thumb first, thumb first, thumb first. Oops. You can sometimes hit the wrong string, which won't matter too much because it will be a note from the chord. So let's just do that slowly to start with. So we're getting our finger picking warm up moving here. We'll do a little bit more slowly. So we're just going to go thumb first, as shown, but making sure that you pick those particular strings on the ukulele. Yeah? Okay, so let's go thumb after 4, slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thumb first, thumb first, thumb first. I'll do this for quite a while because you need to build up the muscle memory of this. Oops, I've gone wrong. Thumb first. I've gone wrong again. If you suddenly lose concentration and it's not embedded in your brain sufficiently, it can go wrong. But so that's well, that's exactly why I say you need to practice these things for a long period of time, so it just becomes a natural thing to do, like walking. Mind you, that's taken me 63 years to get that right. Yeah, so thumb first, thumb first. I suppose you could call it that, alternating picking style. Now, like any picking pattern, of course, you can just apply it to a chord. So you make a chord shape. Let's make a chord shape C on the left hand. And then you just apply exactly the same picking pattern to that chord. And suddenly you are playing a nice little C chord pattern, which can work at the same time as somebody else, or the rest of the band, are strumming C major. So let's just do that. Get a C shape in place. And now we're going to go thumb 1. Yeah, here we go, after 4. What? So here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. Let's change now to a G7. So get your G7 in shape on the ukulele, and now let's do the same finger pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. And I think you can know what's going to come next. We're going to go, no, not F, not yet. We're going to go C, G7, C, G7, C, G7. So we'll do 2 of these patterns on C and then 2 on G7 before returning back to C. So 2 on each chord. You would normally play, if this was in a musical situation, you'd be playing a little bit faster, but we're just, you know, it might be the first time you've done this, so we're just taking it slowly to start with. But you would build up the speed. So here we go, going to C to start with, twice, then G7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now G7. And back to C, here we go. G7. Back to C. G7. And back to G7. Sorry, that's it. And finish on a strum on C. Okay, let's listen to F then. Let's just play F and do the same thing. And because you're only playing notes from the chords, it's always going to sound like a little pretty melody. And so that's why it seems to sound nice whatever chord you play, unless you play some really weird one. F, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. You'll notice there that the thumb followed by the first on the first 2 notes is actually playing the same note. if you're on a re-entrant ukulele, and that's just because of the way it's tuned. So that's okay. Right, let's just play, just to finish off then, I'll just put the patterns there. We'll do this chord number 3, C, F, C, G, 7. I don't think you need to look at that pattern anymore. So just doing the that sequence of chords there, chords 3, C, F, C, G, 7. So we're going to do 2 on each, 2 on C, 2 on F, 2 on C, 2 on G7. 1, 2, 3, 4, C. Now F. Back to C. And now G7. And back to the beginning, and F. Back to C again. G7. Back to the beginning for the last time. That's C. Now F. G7. Finish on a C. Strum. There we go. And so that's our little picking pattern of the day, and we'll pick that up another time, and maybe play a little bit faster next time. And you can go as fast as you like, it still sounds lovely, so because you're just basically playing the chords. And you can try it on any song, any nice chord progression you've got, just try that pattern over it, and just keep the right number of, normally you would play that pattern a bit like a strumming pattern. So where you've got down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, there's 8 basic strums, 4 downs and 4 ups. And if you played this pattern, this picking pattern twice, that's 8 plucks. So that would correspond to the 8 strums. So if you find yourself doing a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up on a chord in a song, then you can go thumb 1, thumb 1, thumb 1, thumb 1, same number of plucks on that picking pattern to match it up and get the right lengths. Good. Okay, well, let's just move on. Something I mentioned on the email was using extra fingers and thumbs. That's just to remind me. Yeah, Andy Eastwood, who was absolutely great a couple of weeks ago, if you were there able to watch it. Very entertaining, and he also gave us a little tip, and that's to make use of your thumb when playing chords, which I must admit I haven't done on a ukulele before. I've tried it on a guitar, but not on a ukulele. And the example he gave probably wasn't a very common chord, but we'll just go over it anyway, just in case you missed it. And what he did was he played a G7, first of all. So if you'd like to do this, just play a G7. And there is a chord which you don't come across very often called G sharp diminished 7th. Okay, G sharp diminished 7th. But this was his example. And you achieve it by taking a G7 chord and putting your thumb over the top on the first fret of the G string. Now, it's the G string and it's the first fret, so it's going to be a G sharp. And the rest of the notes add up to the correct notes for a G sharp diminished 7th chord. You might have seen diminished chords just come up occasionally in particularly old songs. Certainly George Formby played them. The old kind of songs like 5'2", Eyes of Blue, that sort of thing. They sometimes have diminished chords in, so you might have seen it. And occasionally a blues song will have a diminished chord in, and you might have avoided playing it, or you might have managed to play it. But to actually play a diminished chord is quite tricky. It requires 4 fingers. The traditional way, and probably the correct way, is to put your first finger. You can try this. First finger on the first string. Third finger on the second fret of the next string. Second finger on the first fret of the third string. Oh, this is too complicated, isn't it? and then the little finger on the second fret of the... And you get the chord that Andy was describing. But if you took your first finger off, you'll see you've got a G7 chord. And his point was we're used to playing G7 like that without our little finger. And then you can put the thumb on the first fret of the G and you get this diminished chord. So if you haven't played diminished chords before, that might be opening a door for future exploration. Great thing about it is you can move it now because you're holding down all the strings. Whenever you're holding all the strings down on a chord, it means it's a movable chord. So if that's G sharp diminished, you go up one fret, it becomes A sharp, A diminished. Oops, I've got a finger off there. It's an unusual sounding chord, but as I say, it's did I write something down? I think I did. Let's move on. Oh, there we go. Bit of explanation for you, especially if you're watching the video with the sound off. So he added his thumb to the G7 chord to get the G sharp diminished. And I've said there on the screen, it's also known as A flat diminished, B diminished, F diminished, and D diminished. That one shape, without even moving it, is all those four things. And the reason is it's a diminished seventh chord named after any of the notes in it. It's just one of those strange chords. It's got four names. But if that's the chord that you need in your song, then that's... and if you move up that chord shape a semitone or one fret, you move up the letter. So A flat becomes A, B becomes C, F becomes F sharp, D becomes D sharp, and so on. So you can keep doing that. So you've suddenly learned a lot of chords in one fell swoop. Anyway, that's probably a little bit beyond the warm-up session, but I thought I'd just explain what Andy was talking about. He certainly plays a lot of diminished chords in his music. I've seen him performing, and his diminished chords do crop up. Maybe we should have one day a little section within the warm-up where everyone sends me their weird and wonderful chord that they've either finding difficult to play and want an easier way to play it, or haven't figured out how to play it. And so if you want to, you can either text me, send me, or leave it in the chat button. Maybe a weird and wonderful chord, and we'll look at it next time, and it'll help build up the vocabulary of chords as well, because there are an awful lot out there. And sometimes we tend to dismiss them just because, oh, I only ever see that once in a blue moon, so I won't bother learning it. Good. Okay, there was one other thing that Andy did, and I think this is what we're going to finish on, is he said that one of the reasons for doing this is that using your thumbs, it leaves a little finger available to play little kind of melodic lines with the chords. Now I've got a simpler example of that where it doesn't involve playing a difficult chord in the first place. It's this. So here we go. I'll just play it first and you'll recognise it. I'm only playing a C chord. Yep, now you recognise that, the kind of dun, da, 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 kind of rock and rolly bluesy sort of sound. And it's just by playing the C chord, but using your first finger to go on and rather off, then on the second fret of the G string. So when it's off, I'm strumming down, you get a slightly different sound. So I'm just putting that first finger off, then on, then off, then on, then off, and getting the sound of, yeah, it's quite recognisable, isn't it, as a rock and roll sort of sound. So we're just going to do a little bit of that. Then next time I'll add the other chords, F and G and so on. You can see how they all can have their own little... You might be even able to figure it out. So that's what we're going to finish on. So take your C chords, and then here we go. One, and then it's just a dumpty-dumpty-dump sort of rhythm. Off, on, off, on. After 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. Off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, dum, 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 dum. Yeah. Off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And just to give you an idea of what you can also do, we won't do it today, but is that if you want to sound a little bit like Status Quo, they also go on. They do this on their guitars, and they go onto the 3rd fret as well and do something like this. Yeah, so lots of things you can do with this. And that was what Andy was saying about having an extra finger to be able to do extra little melodic things on your ukulele. Good, right, well I think the time's up, so we're going to call it a day there, because I'm sure you're all raring to get out in the sunshine. So thank you very much everybody for coming along. I'll just get this off this. Not quite sure how to work this out on my baritone uke. It's exactly the same. Joe. I think that's Joe. Guess who? Yeah, it's exactly the same. Baritone ukes are tuned differently, of course, but there's the same principles. So, righty ho, and get off the screen there. And lovely to see you all again, and hope to see you in a couple of weeks' time. We might have a guest. We're in the middle of organising it at the moment, and but haven't been confirmed yet. So if you want to just unmute yourselves and say goodbye to everybody. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.